Good morning, guys. It's dark 30, and couldn't sleep last night, so I thought I'd get up and try to edit a video. I know I've fallen behind on my videos, and I do apologize. But big changes have happened. For me, it's big changes anyway. So we'll do a update video here pretty quick. It's kind of going to get away from the Ford here for a while. The unfortunate part about this is I'm so far behind on these. These videos you're seeing are a year old now, and pretty close to it. So, with that said, I'm going to bring you in a little bit of an intro on the steering stuff. I have so many videos on this, and I'm just not going to have you go through and listen to them all because most of it was just whining and complaining about CJ Pony and AutoZone and myself and stuff. So we're just going to break this down really, really quick. I'm going to go straight to rebuilding the actuator instead of the 5 videos I have on just the steering linkage itself. But I'm going to beware you right now on what I ran into, and I'm not going to have you watch these videos. They're just too long. I was so aggravated. I didn't know what I was doing. I still am not 100% sure what I was doing at the time, but I will explain really fast. Somehow, when I bought that front suspension stuff, I bought it specifically because it had the 5-lug spindles. If you recall, the guy sold me the entire front end kit. Somehow, though, and I knew when I looked at the power steering pump something wasn't right, didn't think anything about it at the time. So I ordered from CJ Pony a kit for inner outer tie rods, adjustable links, rebuild kit for the cylinder, rebuild kit for the actuator, and an idler. So that was the deal. Everything shows up. Nothing looks the same. Nothing hooks up the same. There were substituted parts, so some looked bigger than others, some were better looking than others. It was just a mess, but they do what they can, with the times the way they are. Don't get me started on that, but anyway, with that said, what I did find was that this was all the steering components that were off of the donor vehicle parts that the guy sold me were off a 6-cylinder. And there is a huge difference between 6-cylinder and V8 power steering stuff. And non-power, but definitely power steering. I found this out after many, many hours of complaining and trying to figure this out and doing research. So if your actuator has this piece right here screwed into it, that's a 6-cylinder attachment, which means this is a 6-cylinder center link. This one behind, which I'm probably not going to put in a video right away unless you all just want to see it. I bought this one new. This one is the V8 one. So there is a big difference, and the tie rods are different sizes left to right, meaning one side has got a lot bigger threads and the other side does not. CJ Pony sent me one size on the passenger side, meaning one was the big thread, one was a small thread, and it would not work. And I fought and fought and fought. I finally went to AutoZone and ordered both parts from them, inner and outer tie rod and the new adjusting sleeve. And AutoZone gave me a big one on one side and a small one on the other. It just happened to be the opposite of each other from what I ordered. So I was able, between the two of each thing I bought, I was actually able to utilize those, and I got it put together. But it was a struggle. It was a hassle. It was 3 or 4 days of fighting and trying to figure out what was going on and doing research. And I'm just not gonna have you watch it. So where this is going to lead out is this next video coming up is actually going to be rebuilding the actuator and the steering cylinder. I ended up, whether this ever makes video, the steering cylinder problems or not. The steering cylinder wore smooth out. I was not able to rebuild it, so I ended up buying one from AutoZone, and because I know they're notorious for leaking and having issues, so I thought if I bought it here local, if I've got a problem with it, they'll replace it for free. So that's why I did what I did. Whether that makes makes it on here. One day you may just see one video, this thing just may be put together, and you may be asking yourself what happened. Well, there you go. So, all right, let's get on with this rebuilding the actuator. Well, the first thing we're going to do, this is probably going to be jumping around a bit, but I'm going to try to keep it in order, in speed, the same way best we can. What you're seeing here, and I'll move you so you can see the end when we get to that point. This is the brand new center link. This is the kit to rebuild the control valve. So we're going to lay out all the parts. Believe it or not, that's important. And when I told you guys here, I think I did anyway, in one of the previous videos, if I put it out, if I didn't, how this works is, this actually does, when you start to turn, your pitman arm is actually what bolts to this pin here, all right, and it actually does, when you start to turn it, this thing slides back and forth, and that's what moves everything around to give it the pressure, whether it turns left or right. I was right on that. Whether I put the video out on it like I said or not, I'm not sure, but I don't want to lose any parts here. And there is a lot of parts to this, and like I said, there's a couple parts that's kind of fiddly to mess with. And there's several videos out there. Don't just watch mine. I'm telling you, don't just watch my video to rebuild this stuff, because I literally know nothing about this. So all I know is what I've watched myself, and I'm going to tell you right now, CJ Pony does have a video of a guy rebuilding it. He kind of skips through a part where it gets real fiddly, but there are other people out there, like I said, that do it. And one of my favorites to watch is Ed China. And if you guys, any of your car guys probably ever watched Wheeler Dealers, you know what I'm talking about. He used to work, he was a mechanic, you know, on the first 12 seasons or how many ever it was, 10 seasons, I don't remember now. But anyway, he actually has his own channel, YouTube channel, and he actually just did a 66 Mustang V8 power steering car, and he actually rebuilt one of them in it, because it was also leaking like a sieve everywhere, and believe me, I can see why this does this. But okay, here's all the parts to it. This actually goes inside of this. It's actually got two tabs. It kind of holds it in place, and then once everything's, you know, like I said, this will go into this, but this is going to slide into that first. I just wanted to show you real quick all the parts that come with it, because then this thing actually goes up inside there. And anyway, it comes with a gasket that goes on this end. I'll show you all this stuff, but all these little gaskets, O-rings, seals, everything you see here is actually used in the kit. So make sure you have everything that you're supposed to have prior to getting started. These will actually look like this. You won't be able to see that inside there, but that's actually how that works. They'll actually be inside of this. It's spring loaded. That's what that spring's for. I think that plunger's part of it. But anyway, so now we're going to get started on actually putting it together. Now, this isn't actually rebuilding the control valve first, but because of this being, if I was doing just a control valve with a 6-cylinder one, then we would do the whole thing start to finish, because of the way it's designed and bolts to the center link of the 6-cylinder. You have to do everything at once. In this particular case, because it bolts to your, it actually ends up bolting to the end of your center link. It actually bolts here instead of screws into that piece and then bolts to the center link. We can actually start assembling that part of it without having to rebuild anything yet. But you can't go a long way, but you can kind of get it started anyway. So let me get some grease and everything, because you definitely need grease. I'm going to pre-fit a few things just to make sure, because I can, ouch, there's actually a burr inside there. And yeah, where they cut this out. And so I'm going to, wow, yeah, it stabbed me in the finger. So anyway, we're going to, I'm going to make sure everything's cleaned out. It's part of the powder coating, you know, where they drilled the hole through and then powder coated or whatever they did. So I'll bring you back here just a minute when we get started actually doing the assembly. Okay, change of plan, because I didn't think this all the way through. I've got to take this apart first, and the reason I got to take it apart is because
there's a shaft in here that screws into this, that piece of brass or copper, whatever that was, copper I think, that shaft rides through, that actually screws everything together. Yeah, so I have to have that to finish putting the end of that center link together. So we're going to go ahead and get started. There is a spring in here, so I don't think it's going to try to kill me, but in the same token, there is a spring in here. So just keep that in mind. This regular head screw, I know my hand's going to be in the way to start loosening it, but this cap comes off first, is where we're going to start. I don't know that I have all the tools I need. I'm going to break it just to make sure this thing isn't going to reach out and kill me. Screws come out, cap comes off. I'm going to lay everything out here in the order I took it apart. Of course, it's nice to have a video, plus other people's, obviously. So before you take this loose, I mean, the first stop would be to take this off of this, but you really don't want to do that. In the same way, if it's on your center link for the V8, which I, already, don't take them bolts out first, because you need this off first. Once you get that loose, then this, and take them bolts out, then this whole thing will slide out and it'll leave that shaft there. So, and there is actually kind of a torque spec for this. So you might look it up in a book, Google it, ask some other people, watch more videos. I don't actually have that information, but watching, like I said, Ed China's video, he said tighten it up pretty much as tight as it'll go, I believe, and then take it back a quarter of a turn. Again, please watch his video or somebody else's who knows what's going on the spring. Wasn't near as tight as I thought it was going to be as far as. So like I said, keep everything in order. And here is one of your seals, which was in the kit, which I've already put up because I didn't want to get everything mixed together. Again, I'm leaving everything together. There's also another one on this, but we're going to leave that in there for now. We're going to get that out. I think that's that bushing that keeps the tension on it. And this is it's got a washer behind it. Don't forget the washer. I'm leaving this all together, like I said. I actually put it back together in sequence, so it looks like that. Okay. Now, nothing else right now is going to fall out of it. I'll get that green goo everywhere now. Now we can take these out. 2 half-inch bolts. That nut was half-inch. Yes, I'm using 13 because that's all I really use anymore is metric. 13 works. So if you don't have any American wrenches or standard SE, Freedom units, whatever you want to call them, 13 will work. It's not going to fall off there because, like I said, it's a shaft that's actually screwed in at that other end. So, look how loose that thing is without the, oh yeah, there is a spacer plate in there too. I'll show you what that's for here in just a minute because there is another O-ring in there. There's actually a O-ring with that, but what we're trying to do now is also something in here. So we're going to get this broke free from the gasket because there is actually a gasket between, I know you can't see where I'm pointing, but right there where I just unbolted it. Now you're actually not looking at this near like I thought you were going to be. Now you're way too low. What the heck? Move in a little bit closer. Okay, the bolts are right here. It actually holds that on. Like I said, it's more than anything, the most important thing to me right now is when we go back together because we're doing it completely different. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole different. So then the whole unit slides off the end. Now you've got a piston in here, and don't let anything fall out of there yet because that's going to have to come back apart. But the piece I need right now is this right here. So I don't have a wrench that size on me right now. Let's see what we can do about that. Yeah, we'll crescent on do it. No, I don't know what size that is. Uh-oh. Yeah, let's get it all the way on there. Let's don't tear it up. I need this. I think I just slipped off of it again, is all I did. Well, that's not what I expected to have as a problem. Let me work on this for a minute. I definitely don't want to booger it up. But that should unscrew. I mean, because like I said, it's screwed into that piece of copper, so that should unscrew relatively easy. I don't think... Was there a pin in that? Or was that in something else? I don't know. Let me bring you back here in a minute. Pretty bad when I just watched the video last night. I couldn't remember what was going on. I didn't bring the video back because I recall a pin, and there is a pin in here. The problem is you got to get this thing to slide out far enough to get the pin out. And if I recall, you have to take this shroud out from around this. So it is right your head. No, it's Phillips head. We're going to cheat and use the old drill on it because I don't have time to mess around here. And they weren't tight anyway. Sorry if my hat's in the way. Comes with a new one, like I said, I showed you a minute ago. I better not put that there, it's going to end up on the floor. Just pry it loose. You will have to stretch it out to get it to come over that. I got a piece of metal on my finger. Ouch! It's still there. Although I don't see it. Ouch! I know it's still there. Well, there's 2 or 3 pieces in there. I don't know what I grabbed a hold of. Okay, that's just going to hurt for a while, I guess. What choice do I have? Alright, if you can get that out then far enough, there is a pin. And sure enough, by loosening that up, it allowed that to go its full extent. And that pin should come out, I believe, either direction. Let's see if I can bring you in there where you can see it. I'll just got to take you off the tripod. I'll show you. No, I don't have enough light. Come on. Okay, by pulling that out, it exposes on the wrong side. There's that pin. And that should slide in or out one way or the other. It does go all the way through. So you got to get that off there. Sorry the camera works so crappy. I need more lights back here, but I just don't have them right now. Okay. So by pulling that out, that should release that enough that the pin should move. Yep. One pin. Yeah. What happens when you don't remember what you watched the night before. Now, I'm trying to think if the whole thing turns or if it's just the, I think the whole thing turns. I don't think it's just a rod. Could be just a rod. Oh, wow, look, it turns when you don't have a pin in it. Come on. Rather not use channel locks on it, but Boy, I'm telling you what, it's all or none. Oh my goodness. Doesn't help, it moves in and out, and everything I'm holding on to moves with it, or the other opposite direction. And I can't get a socket on there because it's two-sided. It's not like a 6-point or a 12-point like a wrench or a socket would be. So the best I could figure is this isn't super complicated, but there is a lot of fiddly parts with it. I see it's full of garbage too. Anyway, that's how that comes apart. And there's a rubber seal and a spacer washer, whatever it is. And once that's out, then it's got that plunger and spring. There's plunger and spring. They came new in the kit, so you don't really have to worry about them, but I'm still going to set them up here. Then there should be a ball retainer thing, but for now, let's see if we can get the... Come on out of there. It's fighting me a bit. I really don't need to take this apart. I don't need these parts, but I wanted to show you taking it apart because all I'm going to be able to do is show you putting it back together, if that makes any sense. It's fighting me a bit, but there's that side of the ball retainer, or cup, I guess you want to call it maybe, and then you should be able to slide that in enough to get that ball pulled out of there. Now, watching another guy's video, he said that don't be surprised when you pull this part off of the pinion that this doesn't break off or pull out of that brass. They said that is kind of common on these, so don't be surprised if it does it. Now, for whatever reason, this is not pushing back here far enough to get that out. Really, maybe I should put more stuff up here on this table so that I can argue and whine about it. So I'm going, since I don't need this part, but if you do, don't get abusive with it, you know. I mean, all this stuff gets replaced whether you're, you know, if you buy the rebuild kit for it anyway. This thing is just not. No, wrong way. Come on. It's possible that I need to pull this pin and unscrew this some, because maybe this isn't going back there far enough because of it's hitting that. I don't know what's going on, to be honest with you, because it acts like it's not going to go any further back. And I know that's how that goes together or comes apart. I don't understand. Again, I was watching V8 stuff come apart, not 6-cylinder stuff, so I don't know what's going on. Well, I'm not getting to go any further. So apparently there was an issue with the 6-cylinder stuff compared to the V8 stuff. It may have to pull this pin and unscrew this to allow that piece of copper to move further, because it is not going any further without, and I'm not really going to mess with it, because like I said, I don't need any of this stuff. So there's a pin right here. It's like a roll pin, but you can't get to from the top. That's nice and convenient. But that piece of copper will not go any further back, and now that I've messed with it, it probably won't even come back the other way. But I don't need this anyway, but if you need it, I think you're going to have to depin that somehow, and maybe unscrew that, and then that thing will slide possibly out that other direction enough that you can get that out of there. I guess I ought to try it, but I've never had luck getting roll pins out. Oh, all right, I stuck it in a vise and the roll pin came out. I smashed the crap out of it. It's not usable anymore. So let's unscrew this and see what happens. Where are you at? I feel my camera work sucks. That's plenty. Yep, that's all it took. So, 6-cylinder, guys. You have to take that pin out and unscrew that. Don't ask me why. And then, of course, there's the other half of the ball support holder flange. I don't know. Okay, so that's that part of it. And right now, that's the only part I need to start putting my center link back together. So I think we're going to do that first before I tear into the rest of this controller. And because that is going to require all the space I have up here just for that. So I'd like to get part of this back together just to get the parts off the bench. And you know, like I said, that's really all I needed was this piece here. So it's just a matter of just taking that off and putting a new washer on or cleaning it up and put it back together, or you know what I mean. Just so that holds all together. Put that little pin back in. Bring you back in a minute.